Title: Every night at 2:13 a.m., it knocks, and I'm the only one who hears. Part 1. Introduction. It started 2 weeks ago. I remember the exact night, because how could I forget the first time something knocked on my door at 2:13 a.m., and no one else heard it? At first, I thought it was a prank. Maybe a neighbor's kid, maybe someone drunk. But now I dread the sound, because it isn't a person knocking anymore, and I'm beginning to think it doesn't want to come in. It wants me to come out. Body. My name is Natalie. I live alone in a small house at the edge of town, not too far from the woods, not too close to anyone else. That's how I've always liked it. Quiet, peaceful, safe. I work remotely, do graphic design, don't really talk to many people, and I don't need to. Silence is my comfort blanket. Or it was. The first night it knocked, I didn't even get out of bed. Just lay there, half asleep, barely registering the sound. 3 soft knocks. Rhythmic, deliberate. They came from the front door. Definitely not the wind, not a branch brushing against the siding. Just knocks. Knock, knock, knock. I glanced at the clock. 2:13 a.m. Groaned. Rolled over. Ignored it. The next night, it happened again. Same time. Same sound. That's when it clicked. Too exact, too intentional. No prankster comes 2 nights in a row at the exact same second. I got up that time. Made my way downstairs. Switched on the porch light. Nothing. No one. Just the cold, still air and the woods staring back at me like a black ocean of trees. I stood at the door, not opening it, just peering through the peephole. Nothing, but when I pressed my ear to the wood, I heard breathing. Soft, low, raspy. I didn't sleep that night. By the 3rd night, I was waiting for it. I sat on the couch, lights off, phone in hand, ready to call the cops if it knocked again. And it did. 3 knocks. 2:13 a.m. I leapt up, turned on the camera on my phone, and raced the door. I didn't open it, just filmed through the peephole. The video showed an empty porch. But when I played back the audio, I heard the knocks. Then a voice whispered, gravelly wrong. Let me in. That was the moment everything changed. I started talking to my neighbors, asking if they'd heard anything strange. None of them had. They looked at me like I was sleep-deprived. Or worse. One even gently suggested I might be imagining things. You know, said old Mrs. Halberd next door, there was someone who used to live in your house. Young woman. She had some troubles. I leaned forward. What kind of troubles? She hesitated. The kind that make you hear things no one else does. She said someone was knocking every night. Then she disappeared. When? I asked. Mrs. Halberd wrinkled her nose. Years ago. Maybe 5. No one ever found her. Left her car, her phone, everything. Vanished. That night, I stayed up with every light in the house on. Candles, lamps, the TV on low volume. But still, at 2:13 a.m., the knocking came. Knock, knock, knock. Followed by, let me in. My breath caught in my throat. I asked it, trembling, what do you want? There was silence for a long time. I thought maybe it had gone. Then the voice returned, softer than before, almost childlike. To come back. Back? What the hell did that mean? The next day, I boarded up the door, screwed in planks, locked the deadbolt, even jammed a heavy bookshelf in front of it. I waited, heart pounding, and at 2:13 a.m., it knocked again. This time it wasn't soft. Boom, boom, boom. 3 thunderous, furious knocks that rattled the glass and windows. The bookshelf shook. Then I heard the voice again, right up against the door, as though it were pressing its face to the wood. You can't keep me out forever. Conclusion. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it picked me. I don't know what it wants to come back to, but it comes every night. Always at 2:13 a.m. And only I can hear it. The cops won't help. The neighbors don't believe me. And now it's learning. Last night, it didn't knock. Last night, it whispered from the back door. Tomorrow, I'll board up the windows. Maybe sleep in the bathtub. I don't know, but something is outside my house. Something that was once human, or maybe never was, and it's getting closer. Every night, it gets a little louder, a little braver, a little more desperate, and I'm terrified of what will happen the night I finally open the door. Part 2. I didn't sleep at all last night, not even for a minute. After the knock came from the back door, I knew this thing, whatever it was, wasn't following rules anymore. It wasn't bound by patterns or locations. It was adapting. This morning, I checked the security footage again, desperate for answers. My front camera didn't catch anything, just static at exactly 2:13 a.m., followed by a brief burst of white noise, like a faint scream trap between frequencies. The back camera wasn't any better, just cut off completely at 2:12. Came back online at 2:15. It knew where the cameras were. It knew how to avoid them. I spent the day reinforcing the windows, bolting the back door, and dragging my mattress into the bathroom. No windows in there. I needed a box with no view of the outside world, where nothing could stare at me or whisper from the shadows. By midnight, I had a knife in one hand, my flashlight in the other, and my phone recording everything from the counter. At 2:13 a.m., silence. I held my breath. No knocking, no whispering, just silence so thick it felt like cotton in my ears. Not even the wind outside. No creaks in the pipes. Just nothing. Then I realized the house was too quiet. It felt wrong. I crept out of the bathroom, knife first, careful to avoid any spot near a window. The living room was dark, even though I'd left the lights on. Power was out. All of it. Only my flashlight kept the shadows away. I passed by the hallway mirror and froze. My reflection wasn't right. It looked like me, sure, but its mouth was moving. I wasn't speaking. I wasn't even breathing. But the reflection smiled. And then it raised its hand and knocked 3 times against the inside of the mirror. Knock, knock, knock. I screamed and stumbled back, dropping the flashlight. The hallway flooded with shadow. When I finally got the light back up, the reflection was normal again. Me, terrified, pale, breath hitching. But I knew what I saw. It was trying to find new ways in. I called my brother the next morning. He was the only person I could still trust. I know it sounds insane, I said, pacing the kitchen, hands trembling. But something is trying to get in. It's not a person. I don't know what it is, but it knows my name. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I've heard it too. My heart stopped. What? Not every night. Just once. Last year at Mom's place. I was staying over. Woke up at 2:13 a.m. and heard knocking. 3 knocks. Soft, deliberate. I thought I imagined it. Did it speak to you? No, he said. But I had a dream that night. In it, you were standing outside the front door, drenched in rain, eyes completely black. You kept saying, let me in. I remember now. I nearly dropped the phone. I hadn't told anyone what the voice had said to me. The part about coming back, I never mentioned it, but he described it exactly. You think it's connected to us? I asked, voice shaking. I think it wants to be. Later that day, I went up to the attic for the first time in years. It's not a place I ever felt comfortable in. Always felt like the air was heavier up there, but I needed to check. Something was pushing me toward it. The door creaked open, and the smell hit me instantly. Old wood, mold, and something metallic. Blood? Dust motes floated to the light of my flashlight. Everything looked normal at first. Old boxes, a broken fan, some photo albums. But then I saw it. A small trapdoor I didn't remember being there before. It was in the far corner, half covered by a dusty rug. Square-shaped, bolted shut with rusted nails. I knelt down, brushed the rug aside, and ran my fingers along the edges. Someone had etched symbols into the wood. Circles with lines crossing through them. Primitive looking. Wrong. I didn't open it. I couldn't. That night, I dreamed of a staircase beneath the house. It spiraled down endlessly, carved in stone slick with water. I was walking down it barefoot, and behind me, something followed, breathing loud, heavy, and uneven. It whispered in my voice, "Let me back, please. I'm cold down here." I woke up gasping, soaked in sweat. The clock read 2:12 a.m. I didn't have time to move before the knocking started. This time, from inside the house, knock, knock, knock. It was coming from the attic. I ran, barefoot and trembling, to the bathroom, locked the door, and turned on the flashlight. Then my phone buzzed. A notification from the recording app. Playback available. Bathroom audio, 2:13 a.m. I didn't remember turning it on. Hands shaking, I hit play. Static at first. Then my voice. Only it wasn't me. It was slower, hoarser. "You locked me out too long. I remember now. I know where you buried it. Let me back." The recording ended with the sound of nails scraping across wood. Not claws. Nails. Human ones. That morning, I made a decision. I pried open the trapdoor in the attic. Inside was a tunnel. Damp, narrow, stretching down into the dark. I shouldn't have gone in. But I did. I followed it, flashlight flickering, air growing colder with every step. The walls were made of stone, old and crumbling, covered in more of those strange symbols. Eventually, the tunnel opened into a small underground room. In the center was a mirror, tall, ornate, cracked down the middle. It reflected me, but my reflection was sobbing, not scared, begging. "Help me," it mouthed. "It has my name. It's wearing me." I took a step forward. Then the mirror began to bleed. Thick, black-red liquid oozed down the glass, pooling at the bottom, and I heard something behind me, breathing, ragged, wet, right against my neck. I turned. Nothing. But when I looked back at the mirror, my reflection was smiling again. I don't know what's happening to me, or if it's already too late. The knocking hasn't stopped. The voice now follows me in the daylight. It calls from drains, from mirrors, from inside walls. I think it's closer now. It wants to take something back. Maybe it already has. And worst of all, I think part of me wants to let it. Part 3. I haven't seen the sun in 3 days. I keep checking the windows, hoping for some sliver of light, some reminder that time is still moving forward. But it's always the same, heavy gray skies, like the world is stuck in a permanent dusk. I don't know if it's the weather or if the thing in the mirror is starting to affect more than just me. I tried calling my brother again. No answer. His phone goes straight to voicemail, and the last message I got from him was a single word. Gone. Not "I'm gone" or "it's here" or even "help." Just gone. I didn't reply. Couldn't. I spent that night in the hallway, sitting in front of the attic door with a knife across my lap and a flashlight burning through its last bit of battery. Every now and then, I'd hear something shifting up there, not footsteps dragging, like something with too many limbs, pulling itself across the wood. At 2:13 a.m., it didn't knock. It laughed, low, deep, wet. It echoed down from the attic, like it was coming through the walls themselves. I didn't scream this time. I just sat there, frozen, waiting for it to stop. When the sound finally faded, I went back into the bathroom, locked the door, and stared into the mirror. My reflection didn't move. It just stood there, still as stone. Then, slowly, it raised a hand and pressed it against the glass. Blood seeped from its palm. I backed away. The next morning, I left the house. I didn't even pack. Just grabbed my keys and ran. I drove for hours, no destination in mind, just away. But no matter how far I went, the knocking followed. I stayed at a motel 30 miles away, kept the lights on, and watched the clock tick past midnight. 2:13 a.m. came. 3 knocks on the window. I was on the 2nd floor. I pulled back the curtain slowly, heart thudding. There was no one there, but smeared across the glass, written in something dark and thick, were 3 words. "Let me in." I didn't sleep. I didn't move. I just sat in the corner with my back to the wall and the TV on static, praying the sun would rise. It didn't. At least not for me. The next morning, I asked the front desk clerk what time it was. He blinked at me, confused. "It's 2:14, he said. "No, I mean what time of day?" He laughed like I was joking. It's night, man. Been night all day. I left immediately. I tried calling a doctor, a psychiatrist, anyone who could tell me what was happening, but the calls never connected. Static, screeching, whispers. One voice in particular kept repeating, "You're almost hollow now." I started driving again. I didn't care where. I just kept moving until I found something. Anything. That wasn't drenched in this cursed silence. I ended up at the old family cabin. It was a place I hadn't thought about in years. Dad used to take us there when we were kids, before Mom disappeared. Something about it felt like a last resort. The drive through the woods was eerily quiet. No birds, no wind, just the crunch of tires over gravel. Trees pressed close to the road, their trunks blackened as if burned. When I pulled up to the cabin, I was surprised the place was still standing. Dusty windows, vines crawling up the walls, but structurally sound. Inside, everything was as I remembered, except the mirror over the fireplace. It wasn't the one we left behind. It was the same mirror from under the attic. Tall, ornate, cracked. It shouldn't be here. I should have left. But I didn't. I stayed. That night, I locked every door and window, unplugged anything that made noise, and sat in front of the fireplace, watching the mirror. 2:13 a.m. came. No knock, no whisper. Instead, the mirror began to hum, a low vibration, like a deep cello string being plucked in a cavern. The surface of the glass rippled, and then it showed me something, a memory. I was 8 years old, hiding in the attic of the cabin during a thunderstorm. Mom was downstairs, screaming, not at us, but at something outside. She kept yelling, "You can't have him. He's not yours." The mirror showed her dragging something into the trapdoor beneath the attic, a bundle wrapped in cloth. Blood soaked through it. Her face was streaked with tears. Then the vision changed. I was in a dark tunnel. The walls pulsed like flesh. Something was crawling toward me. Its hands were mine. Its face was mine. But its eyes were hollow. Deep pits filled with swirling shadows. It opened its mouth and spoke with my voice. "You were born twice. I was the first." The mirror shattered. Not just cracked, shattered. A gust of wind slammed to the cabin, knocking books off shelves, extinguishing candles, rattling every door and window. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I was shaking, sweating, crying. And then I heard it. Knock, 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 from beneath the floorboards. I tore up the rug in the living room, found the trapdoor. Same one from the attic. Same symbols carved into the wood. Same rusted nails. I pried it open with a crowbar and climbed down. The air was heavy, filled with the scent of wet earth and something foul. My flashlight flickered, casting jagged shadows along the narrow passage. It wasn't a tunnel anymore. It was a staircase, the same one from my dreams. I descended slowly, every step echoing louder than the last. At the bottom was a stone chamber, round and damp. Symbols covered every inch of the walls, glowing faintly like veins beneath skin. In the center was a crib, old, rotten, covered in cobwebs. Inside was me, not a baby. Me, pale, motionless, eyes closed, lying perfectly still. I stepped forward, drawn by something I couldn't resist. When I touched the edge of the crib, the figure's eyes snapped open. Pitch black, mouth split into a grin too wide for any human face. And it spoke. "You left me down here." I stumbled back, tripping over loose stones. "You were the one she chose," it said. "But she made a mistake. I was the first. You were the shadow." "No," I whispered. "You're not real." It stood up. The body moved wrong, joints bending backward, skin stretching tight over sharp bone. "I've knocked for years," it said, stepping closer. "And every time you ignored me, pretended you didn't hear. But now you're listening." It reached out, fingers twitching. "I just want to come home." I turned and ran. Up the stairs, through the trapdoor, slamming it shut behind me. The knocking didn't stop. It's 2:13 a.m. again. I can't stop shaking. It's not knocking anymore. It's whispering from inside my head. You're hollow enough now. Let's trade places. Part 4. I should have burned that place down. I don't know how I made it out of the cabin. I remember running to the woods, tripping over roots and fallen branches, lungs screaming, that voice still curling inside my skull like smoke. I didn't stop until I reached the road. And even then, I kept walking. For hours. Maybe longer. It wasn't until I saw headlights in the distance that I realized how long it had been. The driver didn't even ask questions. Just saw the blood on my face, the scratches on my arms, the way I was clutching my ribs like something inside me was trying to tear its way out, and told me to get in. She dropped me off in town. A different town. I didn't even look at the name on the welcome sign. It didn't matter. Nothing mattered anymore, because I knew what was coming. And worse, I knew I brought it with me. I checked into a rundown roadside inn, used a fake name, paid cash. The room smelled like mildew and old smoke, and the wallpaper was peeling in long strips, but I didn't care. I blocked the door with a chair, shoved the dresser in front of the window, turned every light on. Then I stood in front of the mirror in the bathroom and waited. My reflection was already smiling when I looked. I hadn't even touched the glass. This time, I didn't scream. I didn't run. I stared back. What do you want? I whispered. The smile faded. It raised its hand and traced something across the glass in reverse, so I could read it from my side. To behold, a sharp knock came from behind me. Not from the door, not from the window, from the inside of the wall. I spun around, breath caught in my throat. 3 knocks. Steady, patient, familiar. 2:13 a.m. I didn't move. The knocks came again, louder this time, echoing like fists on bone. I backed into the bathroom, slammed the door, locked it. The mirror had returned to normal. My reflection mimicked my terror, but I knew it was still there, watching, waiting. The knocking didn't stop. It grew, spreading. Walls, floor, ceiling, all around me, like the room itself was breathing, pulsing, alive. Then, all at once, silence. I waited. Nothing. I waited longer. Still nothing. And then, a knock on the mirror. From inside. Hairline cracks splintered across the surface. I turned and ran out of the room. The hallway was empty, bathed in a yellowish hue from flickering lights. Doors lined the corridor, each closed tight. But the further I walked, the more wrong it felt. The hallway kept stretching, bending, twisting. Every door had the same number, 213. I started running. Every step echoed back like someone was running beside me, just out of sight. I reached the stairwell, but when I looked down, there were no stairs, just darkness. And at the bottom, faintly glowing, the mirror. I staggered back, slamming into the wall. That's when I heard her. Don't go down there. The voice was familiar, soft, gentle. Mom. I turned. She stood at the far end of the hallway, wearing the same dress she wore the night she disappeared. Her skin was pale, eyes distant, like a faded photograph brought to life. Mom. I croaked. She nodded slowly. It's not done with you. What is it? I asked, stepping closer. Why is it after me? She looked past me, her expression pained. Because I tried to take it away. I thought I could bury it, lock it away in the dark. But it's part of you. It always has been. I don't understand. She reached out, touched my face. Her hand was ice. You were born into 2 shadows, she said. One they could see and one I hid. But it's never stopped watching, never stopped waiting. The lights above us shattered. Glass rained down like snow. And behind me, I heard the stairs laugh. I turned, and the stairwell was gone. So was the hallway. So was she. I was back in the motel room, standing in the middle of the floor, knife in my hand, sweat pouring down my face. The mirror in the bathroom was shattered. Not cracked. Shattered. And on every shard my reflection was grinning. I staggered back, hit the wall, slid down to the floor. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. All I could do was listen. Because the knocking had started again. Not on the wall, not on the mirror. inside my head, over and over. Knock, knock, knock. You're almost ready, the voice whispered. Soon we'll trade. I passed out. When I woke, it was daylight. At least it looked like daylight. But the sky outside the window wasn't blue. It was gray. A colorless, dead gray that reminded me of ash. I packed my things and left. I couldn't stay in one place anymore. Everywhere I go, it follows. Every night at 2:13, something knocks. Sometimes on the walls. Sometimes the mirror. Sometimes inside me. And every time, the voice gets louder. It's changing me. I can feel it. In the way my shadow sometimes lingers a second longer than my body. In the way mirrors no longer reflect what I'm doing in real time. In the way people flinch when they look me in the eyes, like they see something else looking back. I called my brother's old number again. Someone answered, but it wasn't him. It sounded like me, just a little wrong, a little distorted. It whispered, "We're already here." Then it hung up. I smashed the phone. I tried burning the clothes I wore in the cabin, but the fire wouldn't catch. The fabric stayed cold, damp. The moment I dropped them, the knocking started again. I think I'm running out of time. I think I'm disappearing, piece by piece. This morning, I looked in the mirror and saw a bruise on my neck. I touched it. It smiled. Tonight, I'm going back to where it all started. The attic, the place where Mom tried to hide the truth. Maybe if I open again, maybe if I face whatever's down there, I can stop it. Or maybe I'll let it in. I don't know anymore, but I can't run forever. The house is colder than I remember. Dust blankets everything. The lights flicker, even though the power hasn't been turned on in years. As I climb the stairs to the attic, I feel it waiting, like it knows, like it's excited. The attic door creaks open. The mirror is still there, even though I shattered in the motel, and again in the cabin. It reforms wherever I go, as if it's alive. I kneel in front of it. The surface ripples. My reflection is already smiling. Ready, it asks. No, I whisper, but I stay, because maybe this is what I was meant for. Maybe this is who I've always been. Part 5. I didn't know what would happen when I reached out to touch the mirror. I didn't expect the glass to ripple like water. I didn't expect the cold that seized my bones the moment my fingers brushed its surface, or the way my reflection grabbed my wrist with strength far beyond mine. But it wasn't pulling me in. It was pulling itself out. I screamed, kicked backward, tried to tear free, but it held me tight, hand gripping mine like a vice, smiling wider with every second. Its face stretched unnaturally, cheeks tearing at the corners, eyes going black like ink had spilled inside. Then it spoke. You've made me strong. It climbed halfway through the mirror, torso dripping something dark and thick. As its other hand reached for my throat, I lunged for the broken piece of wood lying beside the attic wall and slammed it into the side of its face. The thing recoiled, hissing. I ran, tore down the stairs, nearly tripped. I could hear behind me, crawling across the ceiling, impossibly fast, its fingers clicking on the wood like insect legs. I burst through the front door, didn't stop running until I hit the trees. My lungs burned. My legs threatened to give way. But I couldn't stop. I knew if I stopped, it would catch me. And this time, it wouldn't trade places. It would consume. I made it to town by sunrise. People stared as I stumbled down the street, covered in dirt and dry blood, shirt torn, eyes wide. But no one said a word, not even when I screamed for help, not even when I begged someone to look behind me. They couldn't see it. It stood in the street, calm, silent. My shape, my voice, but eyes darker than anything human, head tilting slowly as it watched me fall apart. I ran to the police station. They locked me in a holding cell. And that night, at exactly 2:13 a.m., it knocked again. On the bars, on the walls, from inside the shadows. A guard passed by. I screamed for him. He didn't hear me, but I heard it. You're almost ready. They released me after 2 days. Said they found no drugs in my system, that I had no record, that I hadn't harmed anyone. But they all looked at me the same. like they were afraid of something, like they knew. And maybe they did. Maybe the thing inside the mirror had found a way to infect more than just me. Maybe it had always been part of me. I went back to the motel that night. Different one, different town. Didn't matter. I set up every camera I had, covered the room in salt, holy water, everything I could think of. I even drew symbols I remember from Mom's old notebooks, the ones she kept locked in the attic. Then I waited. At 2:13, the lights flickered. The air turned thick, pressing against my chest. And from the far corner of the room, where no mirror hung, where no window faced the outside, I heard the knock. Just one. This time, I didn't flinch. "Come on," I whispered. "Let's finish this." The room grew colder. I could see my breath. The shadows pulled at my feet and climbed the walls. And then it stepped out, no longer just a reflection, no longer bound by glass. It stood across from me, taller than I remembered, wearing my face like a borrowed mask. "What do you want?" I asked. "You already know," it said. Its voice echoed twice, once from its mouth, once from inside me. I clenched my fists. "You said you wanted to be whole. Why me?" It grinned. "Because you made me. Every fear you buried, every secret you denied, every night you pretended you didn't hear the knock. I grew stronger. Now I don't need mirrors anymore. I am the reflection." It lunged. We collided hard, me slamming it into the wall, it clawing at my face. We rolled across the floor, each strike echoing like thunder. I grabbed the salt, flung it into its eyes. It screamed, high-pitched, unnatural. I reached for the knife I'd hidden under the bed, but it was already standing, bleeding shadow from a wound that pulsed like a heartbeat. "You can't kill what's already inside you," it whispered. I looked into its eyes and saw my childhood, saw my mother standing in front of that mirror, chanting words I didn't understand, saw my brother cover my ears, whispering, "Don't listen, whatever you do." Saw myself, night after night, lying awake while something scratched just behind the glass. It had always been there. It had just been waiting. I lowered the knife and said the words my mother used. I didn't know what they meant, but they came out smooth, natural. The air cracked. The room bent. The thing screamed again, but not in pain. In rage. I felt it pulling back, trying to flee. I pressed forward, forcing the words out, louder and louder until my voice was hoarse. The mirror on the wall, one I hadn't noticed before, shattered. And behind the glass, there was nothing. No reflection. Just me, alone. The creature fell to its knees, face twitching, body unraveling like ash caught in wind. "You gave me a name," it whispered. "Now you take it back." Then it was gone. I woke the next morning on the floor. No scratches, no blood. The cameras? All fried, batteries drained, footage wiped. But the knock didn't come that night, or the night after, or the night after that. For the first time in weeks, I slept through the night, dreamless. Still, it's been 3 months now. I moved into a small apartment in the city. No mirrors on the walls. I carry a compact one in my pocket, just in case. Sometimes I see a flicker behind me, just a blur, a suggestion, but it never stays. Not anymore. I think I won. I think it's gone. But every night, just to be sure, I check the clock and listen, because if it ever comes back, if it ever knocks again, I'll be ready. Part 6. The silence was worse than the knocking. For weeks, I had lived in dread of that sound. Exactly at 2:13 a.m., 3 sharp raps against the mirror, the wall, or sometimes just the air itself. But after that final night in the motel, when I spoke the words from my mother's hidden journal and watched the thing unravel into dust, the knock stopped. I should have felt relief. I should have celebrated. But the silence, it stretched unnaturally, like the pause between heartbeats that last just a little too long. And I began to notice something far more terrifying than the sound. The absence. At first, I thought it was just exhaustion. I couldn't remember what I had done the previous day. Whole hours vanished from my mind like someone had clipped them out with a pair of scissors. I'd find myself in rooms I didn't remember walking into, lights on that I hadn't touched, food half-eaten on the counter, dishes cleaned and put away without memory of doing so. And the mirrors, though I had removed every one from my apartment, reflections still found me, in windows at night, in puddles after rain, in the dark shine of my phone screen. And I'd see myself doing things I hadn't done, not smiling, not blinking, sometimes not even looking back at me, just watching, waiting. One night, I was sitting at the kitchen table, trying to journal every memory I could salvage from my childhood, my brother, my mother, that mirror in the attic, the rituals. I flipped back through the pages and stopped cold. There were entries I hadn't written, whole pages filled with perfect handwriting, but they weren't mine. Each entry was signed. The other me, I read them in disbelief. He thinks he won. How cute. I don't need to knock anymore. I am already inside. At 2:13 a.m. tonight, I'll peel the skin and wear it better. He forgets who created whom. I dropped the journal. It thudded against the hardwood floor, and then I heard it. Drip, drip, from the bathroom. I crept down the hallway, stomach turning with every step. The door was half open, and the lights were off. Something gleamed inside. I reached for the switch and flipped it on. There was blood in the sink. Not a splash. A pool. Fresh, thick, deep red. And written on the mirror in shaky strokes, backwards, like someone had written from inside, were the words. 2:13 is not the beginning. It's the ending. Yours. I ran. I didn't even take my phone. I just bolted from the apartment and kept going. My breath turned to smoke in the cold air, my legs aching. I needed answers. Real ones. And there was only one place left. My childhood home. I hadn't been back in years. It sat in a forgotten corner of the old town, sagging beneath the weight of time. The windows were cracked. The wood warped and faded. No one had lived there since I left. But the attic, I had avoided that room for too long. I stepped inside, each board creaking like a groan. Dust swirled in the air like restless spirits. The wallpaper had peeled away in strips, revealing old symbols beneath. Faded now, but still powerful in a way that made my skin crawl. The attic stairs waited at the end of the hallway. Just like always, I climbed slowly. Each step felt like crossing back into a world I tried to forget. The attic door creaked open without resistance, and there beneath the stained sheet was the mirror, cracked, webbed with old damage, but still intact, and still humming with that low, gut-deep presence. I approached slowly, pulling the sheet free. The surface shimmered once, just once, and then it cleared, and I saw myself. No tricks, no twisted features, just me. But as I leaned closer, something changed. The reflection smiled, and I didn't. "You're slipping," it said, voice echoing from my mouth. "No," I whispered. "Yes." "You left the door open. I only needed the silence. You gave me that." I stepped back. It stepped forward. Every memory you buried, I found. Every weakness you refused to face, I became. I shook my head. I banished you. You thought you did. But what you banished was only the knock, the invitation. You never realized I was already inside. The lights flickered, and when they came back on, I wasn't alone in the room. The reflection was no longer just in the mirror. He stood across from me now, solid, breathing, grinning. "You gave me a name once," he said, circling. "You gave me form. Now I'll take the rest." I backed toward the attic wall, my hands searching the floor for anything to use. A broken beam, a rusted nail, anything. He moved faster. In a blink, he was inches from my face. "I've waited long enough," he hissed. And then the knock came. Once, twice, 3 times. But this time, it wasn't from the mirror. It was inside my head. Pain exploded behind my eyes. My legs buckled. The attic spun in wild, unnatural arcs. I clutched my skull and screamed as the thing began to press through me, a force trying to wear my body like a costume. peeling away my control layer by layer. And in those few seconds before I blacked out, I heard it whisper, "Don't fight it. You invited me in when you listened. Now we're one." I don't know how long I was unconscious, but when I woke, the mirror was shattered, and I was lying in the attic, alone, or so I thought, because when I looked down at my hands, I saw blood, dried, dark under my nails, and on my wrists, burned into skin, were 3 letters, 213. Back in the apartment now. Everything is different. The silence has weight again. The clocks tick louder than they should. Reflections are delayed. Just by a beat, I speak, and sometimes I hear an echo that isn't mine. I don't know if I brought it back, or if I ever truly left it behind. All I know is, tonight at 2:13 a.m., something will happen, and I don't know whether I'll be the one knocking or the one answering. Part 7, 2:12 a.m. I sat on the floor, my back pressed against the bedroom wall, phone in hand but with no one to call. The apartment was deathly silent, broken only by the ticking of the clock. The red digital numbers glowed like embers. 2:12, 2:12, 2:12. Each second crawled by like it knew something I didn't. Something was waiting on the other side of time, just 1 minute away. My breathing was shallow, and my eyes burned from staying wide, afraid to blink. I wasn't even sure if I was me anymore. The blood under my nails hadn't washed off. I'd scrubbed until my hands were raw, but it clung to me like memory. Then the clock ticked. 2:13. And nothing happened. No knock, no reflection, no whisper. Only the faint, high-pitched ringing in my ears that had become more frequent with each passing night. Was it finally over, or had something changed? I got up slowly, muscles stiff from tension. I crept through the apartment, room by room. The hallway was empty. The windows showed only darkness. The bathroom mirror was gone. I'd smashed it weeks ago. I was halfway through the living room when I noticed it. The front door was ajar, only slightly, like someone had just stepped in or stepped out. My pulse quickened. I approached it, bare feet silent against the wood. I reached out, fingertips trembling, and pushed the door shut. It clicked softly into place. And then I saw it. On the inside of the door, drawn in dark red ink or blood, were 3 simple words. "He's not gone." I didn't sleep that night. I sat up until the sun bled into the sky, waiting for something to happen. But nothing did, and yet everything was wrong. At the grocery store, people turned to look at me, only to quickly avert their gaze, as if they'd seen something terrible. A cashier dropped my change and refused to pick it up, just slid it across the counter like I was radioactive. On the street, a little boy clutched his mother's arm and whispered, "Mommy, that man's shadow is smiling." I checked. He was right. My body faced forward, but my shadow, it had its head tilted toward me, grinning. By the 3rd day, I began losing time again. I'd black out and wake up in strange places, my bathtub filled with ice, my bed soaked in sweat, my clothes inside out. One morning, I woke up on the roof of my building, barefoot and with a key I didn't recognize in my hand. Worse, I started hearing things. Not the knocking anymore. Laughter, low and cruel, echoing from inside walls and floorboards. And a voice, mine but distorted, whispering things I'd never say. "You look so much better from the inside. Let me wear your face again. I can love them better than you ever did." I returned to the journal, the one with the entries signed "The Other Me." New pages had appeared, scrawled in frenzied writing. "You thought you buried me, but I'm the seed that grew in your absence. We are one now. The knock wasn't the beginning. It was the bargain. You opened the door. You let me in. And now I decide who leaves." I flipped through the journal desperately, looking for some clue, something to reverse whatever I had done. But the pages grew darker the further I went, both in content and color. The ink turned crimson, then black, then oily streaks that bled to the paper and made my fingers numb. And at the very back, scratched into the leather cover, 2:13 is not the hour. It is the threshold. I knew then what I had to do. Go back to the motel where where it all changed. Back to the exact room where I had tried to banish it. I packed a bag, filled it with candles, the journal, a cracked compact mirror, and an old cassette recorder, just in case I needed proof. I drove for hours in silence, unable to shake the feeling that I wasn't the only one in the car. The motel hadn't changed. Room 103 still had the same flickering sign above it and the same buzzing light by the door. I checked in without a word. The clerk didn't ask questions. He looked at me like he knew something was wrong, but was too afraid to say it aloud. I entered the room and locked the door behind me. That night, I created a circle of salt around the mirror I'd brought, lit candles, read the entries aloud in reverse, chanted every counter ritual I could remember, but the reflection didn't show me anything, not even myself. It was blank, black, void. Then the air grew cold. The candles flickered violently, and in the mirror's darkness, a shape began to emerge. A man, me, but twisted, face slightly off-center, eyes glowing dimly, smile too wide and too still. He leaned forward until his forehead nearly touched the glass from his side. And then, without moving his lips, I heard him, inside my skull. "You're late." I froze. "I've been waiting." You ran. But time always brings you back. I reached for the journal, but my fingers wouldn't move. Paralyzed. My reflection's eyes shifted, looking down, to the floor, to the circle, a break. Somehow, the salt had scattered, just a hairline crack in protection. It was enough. The candles blew out in unison. The room plunged into suffocating darkness. And then he stepped out. I didn't think it was possible, but he came through the mirror, not shattering it, not phasing, just emerging like smoke condensing into skin. I tried to scream, but he was already on me, fingers wrapped around my throat. His breath was my breath. His heart beat through my chest. And then he whispered it, one final thing, right before I blacked out. "Let's see if they still love you when I'm done wearing you." I woke up in the motel bed, clean, refreshed, the journal gone, mirror gone, candles untouched. Everything looked normal, but I didn't feel normal. I stood and walked to the bathroom mirror, and looked, and waited, and I blinked, but my reflection didn't. It just stood there a second too long, watching me walk away. Since that night, I've been functioning. Everyone says I'm better now, that I look healthier, sound more confident, like the old me, but I don't remember most of my days anymore. I'll go to bed and wake up in different clothes. My phone has photos I didn't take, voicemails I don't recall leaving, and sometimes when I pass mirrors or dark windows, I see something behind me, just for a split second, the shape of a man with my face, tilting his head, smiling, waiting. But the worst part? At exactly 2:13 a.m. each night, wherever I am, no matter what I'm doing, I stop just for a moment, a second of stillness, and I listen, because I know it's knocking again. But now I don't know who it's knocking for. Part 8. It's been 12 days since the motel. 12 days since I watched something step out of a mirror wearing my skin. But that's the thing, it didn't take my body. I'm still here. I think we're both here. Two minds trapped in one flesh, fighting for control. Most of the time, I feel like I'm watching someone else live my life. He wears my smile, speaks with my voice, remembers names I've never learned. People are fooled. They don't know he's not me. But at 2:13 a.m., I always come back. That's the rule. That's the curse. Every night, I wake up exactly then, gasping like I've drowned, feeling the world shift around me. And every time, I realize that I've missed hours, sometimes entire days. I check my phone. Dozens of messages, missed calls, sent texts I didn't write, photos of me standing places I've never been. There was one image, taken in the reflection of a storefront window, me grinning. But my eyes weren't looking at the camera. They were looking directly at me. Tonight, when I came to at 2:13, I found myself in a diner booth, half-eaten pie on the plate, a coffee gone cold. My journal in front of me, but not the real journal. The one I buried. This was a replica. Its cover looked newer, its pages cleaner. I opened it. Inside were entries in a familiar hand, dated for every day I couldn't remember. Not from me, from him. The other me. My parasite. My twin. Day 5. She smiled at me today. The barista with the purple hair. I think I'll keep her. Day 8. He fights back every night. He thinks this body still belongs to him. But I'm winning. Day 11. He doesn't understand. I'm not taking his life. I'm fixing it. I flip to the most recent page. Tonight's entry. Day 12. He'll wake up soon. He always does. I'll let him read this. Let him know what's coming. Tomorrow I take her. The girl from the old photos. The one he buried. I know where she sleeps now. I'm going to finish what he couldn't. I dropped the journal and ran. My apartment felt colder than I remembered. Darker, too. There was something sticky on the floor, mud, or worse, tracked in by someone who hadn't bothered to wipe their feet. The air smelled like iron. I turned on every light. The bedroom door was open. On the bed, neatly arranged, was a photo album, one I hadn't seen in years. Its spine was frayed from my hands, flipping it obsessively back when I still believed I could forget. Inside were pictures of her. Claire, the only person I ever loved. The one I failed. The one he was going after. I flipped through the pages like they might catch fire. At the back was a note taped to the inside cover, torn from one of my notebooks, in that same cruel handwriting. Let's make a better memory this time. No more grief. No more guilt. Only us. Underneath it was an address and a key. I should have called the police, or burned the journal, or locked myself in a padded room. Instead, I drove. The address was real. A farmhouse just beyond the edge of town. The kind of place no one visits unless they're lost or being led. As I approached, the sky turned an unnatural shade of gray, like it had forgotten what time it was supposed to be. Fog clung to the trees. The house sat alone at the end of a gravel path, its porch light flickering. I parked at the edge of the property. Every instinct told me to leave, but instinct belonged to him now. I followed the gravel, each crunch of my boots sounding like bone. The key fit the lock. The door opened without protest. And inside, the house smelled like her. Vanilla, dust, and something else. Decay. I crept through the dark hallways, my flashlight cutting narrow swaths of light. The air was thick, as though time didn't flow here. I passed old furniture covered in sheets, cracked wallpaper, and picture frames turned face down. Then I heard it, a creak upstairs. I climbed slowly, each step groaning beneath me. At the top of the staircase was a door, painted the soft yellow of childhood bedrooms. It was ajar. I pushed it open, and found her, Claire, alive, asleep in a rocking chair by the window. Hair longer now, features softer. She looked peaceful, untouched by whatever madness had infected my world. But I knew it wasn't real. It couldn't be. She was dead, had been for years. I'd seen her body. I buried her. So how? You took long enough, she whispered. I froze. Her eyes opened, and they weren't hers. They were mine, but not the ones I knew. They belonged to him. She stood. The shape of her flickered, like bad reception. One moment, Claire. The next, a tall, eyeless figure with a bleeding mouth. A silhouette with my smile. I brought her back for you, the thing said. Don't you see? We don't have to be alone anymore. I backed away. No, I said. You're not her. You're not me. It cocked its head. Oh, but I am. I'm the part of you that wants to forget. The part that can live without pain. And you're the rot. The thing that clings to grief. The room began to pulse. Walls expanding, breathing like lungs. The floor bubbled and split, black veins crawling from under the boards. The Claire thing took a step toward me. Join me, it said. Be whole. I ran, down the stairs, through the pulsing house. It tried to hold me back, rooms shifting, doorways vanishing, stairs turning into slick, endless tunnels. But I made it outside, collapsed in the grass. The farmhouse behind me imploded silently, sucked into itself like a dying star. Only a faint echo remained, like a heartbeat stopping mid-thump. The fog swallowed it. Gone. I woke up in my car, hands gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles were bloodless. It was still dark, but the clock said 2:13 a.m., and this time I felt lighter. No whispers, no shadows. Had I beaten it? Had I forced him out? I checked the mirror. It showed only me. No flicker, no twitch, just me. I exhaled long and shaky, and then I noticed it. A reflection in the rear-view mirror. Not my face. Not quite. His eyes. My mouth. Twisting into a new expression. Something smug. Satisfied. Then, tap, tap, tap. 3 knocks. From inside the car. I didn't move. Just stared into the mirror. My reflection leaned forward and mouthed, "Tag." Part 9. The mirror didn't lie. The reflection wasn't mine. And the knock, those 3 soft taps, hadn't come from the outside. They'd come from the back seat. I didn't dare look. Not yet. My breath caught in my throat like it didn't belong there, and every inch of me screamed, "Do not turn around." But I did, slowly. There was nothing there. No one in the back seat. No shadow. No silhouette. No grinning imposter. Just empty leather seats bathed in the glow of the dashboard clock. 2:14 a.m. I blinked. Had I imagined it? The knock? The reflection? Maybe I'd passed out again. Slipped into one of his dreams. Or worse, his reality. But then I saw it. On the seat behind me. A handprint. Smudged into the foggy window. Not mine. Too long. Too slender. The fingers curled slightly inward, as if whoever had pressed it there was clinging, desperate. Or maybe waiting. That was enough. I drove. Didn't care where. Just away from that farmhouse. From my apartment. From the mirror. From everything. Every few minutes I glanced in the rear view, praying not to see him smiling back. But the mirror stayed clear. Until I got to the bridge. It was the old iron one that crossed into the neighboring county. I'd never driven this far before at night. The road stretched over water that looked black and endless, more like a void than a river. As I approached the center of the bridge, something strange happened. The dashboard clock blinked. 2:13 a.m. Again, but that wasn't possible. I'd seen 2:14. I'd driven nearly 30 minutes since then. Yet the clock had reset. So had my phone. 2:13 a.m. Everything around me paused, like the world had been caught mid-breath. That's when I saw him, standing at the far end of the bridge. A figure in my clothes. My posture. My face. But not me. Never me. He smiled and raised one hand. Not to wave. To knock. Once. Twice. 3 times. Tap. 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 And my car stopped. Engine off. Headlights dead. Phone blank. I was frozen in place, paralyzed by something deeper than fear. A soul-deep paralysis that whispered, "You're not leaving this bridge." He walked toward me, each footstep echoing unnaturally loud, like the bridge amplified his presence. He never blinked. His eyes bored into mine through the windshield, as if he could already taste my surrender. I tried to move, turn the key, open the door, but nothing worked until he reached the hood of my car. He bent down, put his face level with mine, and mouthed, "Let me in." I didn't, not willingly, but the car door unlocked. Not because I hit the button, because he did. From the inside, I gasped awake. On the floor of a bedroom I didn't recognize. Morning light filtered through unfamiliar curtains. I scrambled to my feet. Everything felt wrong, off-kilter, like gravity was working sideways. The walls were the wrong color. The air smelled of fresh paint. There were boxes stacked in the corners. A calendar on the wall read May. But the last date marked was weeks ago. My phone buzzed. Somehow it had power again. I unlocked it. New messages. Missed calls. Even a video. I played it. It was me, standing in front of this very room. Smiling. Speaking in a calm, friendly tone. Hey guys. So, big update, I've officially moved in. Fresh start, fresh vibes. You know how it is. I looked dead into the camera and winked. Then the video ended. I dropped the phone. This wasn't just possession anymore. He was living as me, creating memories, recording content, posting as if he were the real thing. And no one knew, not my friends, not my family. They'd all bought it because I wasn't there to tell them otherwise. I checked the boxes. They were filled with my things, books I hadn't read in years, clothes I hadn't worn since college, trinkets that should have been lost or burned, each one neatly labeled. Me, also me, better me. I reached the last box, taped shut, ripped it open. Inside was a mirror, just a frame, really, glass broken, edges jagged. There was something carved into the wood. Home is where the reflection fits. I turned it over. Taped to the back was a photo. Claire again, but not the one I remembered. This Claire was standing next to him, smiling, eyes bright, one hand resting gently on his shoulder. Behind them was this very room. They looked happy, whole, like a perfect memory stolen from someone else's life. I tore the photo in half. The walls around me groaned. I was being watched, not just by him, by the house, by something inside the reflection of every glass surface. I turned the mirror back around and saw myself, but not as I was now, as I used to be before the knocking, before the fracture. A younger me. He reached out, pressed his palm to the inside of the glass, and smiled, the same way I used to, the same way he does now, and whispered, "Don't you miss it?" I ran, out of the house, into the daylight. But even the light felt artificial now, washed out, colorless, like a dream just before waking. And something followed, a shadow, no longer tied to shape or form. I could see it stretch from under parked cars, from behind fence posts, from beneath my own feet. The echo of him, of what I'd let in, of what I was becoming. I found an old payphone. Somehow it still worked. I dialed the only number I remembered, Claire's sister. She picked up. "Hello, Marla." I croaked. "It's me. It's—" "Oh, hey," she said, her voice tight. Wow. Didn't think I'd hear from you again. I need to ask something. Something insane. Go on. Is Claire alive?" Silence. Then, "No," she said. "You know that. Why would you—" She didn't come back? No strange messages? No sightings? "No," she snapped. "Why are you asking that? Are you okay?" I wanted to say yes, but then the phone crackled, her voice distorted, and from the static came another voice layered beneath hers. His, "You're not supposed to be here yet." I dropped the phone, backed away. The booth began to shake, glass vibrating as though something inside wanted out. And I knew then, this world wasn't mine anymore. He wasn't just wearing my life. He was rewriting it. I need to end this. For good. I'm going back to where it started. The house. The hallway. The door that knocked. I'll find it again. Even if it kills me. Because if I don't, he'll keep living. As me. And no one will ever know the difference. Part 10. I stood before the house again. Not the new one. The original. The one that had been waiting. Watching. Listening. The paint was even more weathered now, peeling in long strips like torn skin. The windows were dark, reflecting only a murky, distorted version of the world, one I no longer belonged to. I checked my phone. 2:04 a.m. 9 minutes. 9 minutes until it knocked. I pushed open the door. It creaked the way I remembered. The same smell hit me, damp wood, mildew, and something else, something metallic, like blood. The hallway was exactly as it had been. Wallpaper faded and peeling. The clock at the end still dead, its hands frozen at 2:13. I walked slowly, every step weighted with memory. Claire's laughter echoing in my ears. Her scream, and that mirror, the one with his face. I passed the bedroom where she vanished. The air was colder here. It curled around my ankles, climbed my spine. Something behind the walls moved. I didn't turn. Didn't run. This time, I needed to face it. All of it. At the end of the hallway stood the door. The door where it all started. I reached for the knob. It turned easily and opened into the impossible. It was the same room I had seen in the mirror back in the other house. Pristine, familiar, decorated with photos of me and Claire, except it wasn't Claire. Not really. Her smile was off, her eyes too wide. And the man next to her? Not me. The room was quiet, but not silent. A sound hummed beneath the surface, like a tuning fork, vibrating reality. And then the lights flickered. 2:12 a.m. He was near. I stepped into the room. Immediately, I felt heavy, as if gravity had tripled. My limbs resisted every motion. My breath came in shallow bursts. And in the mirror across the room, I saw him, watching, grinning, waiting. Then, knock. 1, 2, 3. 2:13 a.m. The mirror rippled. Not shattered, not cracked. Rippled, as though it was no longer glass, but liquid. He stepped out. And this time, there was no difference between us. Same clothes, same face, same voice. But that smile, it didn't belong to me. Finally, he said, "You brought yourself home. What are you?" I whispered. He shrugged, head tilting in that unnatural way only nightmares can. "I'm the better version," he said. "The one that doesn't run, that doesn't mourn, that survives." "You killed Claire." He laughed. "No," he said. "You did. I just helped her see the truth." My fists clenched. "You're not real." He stepped closer. "I'm more real than you now. Look around. Your friends talk to me. Your family. They think I'm happier, healthier. No one even misses you." That hurt, because it was true. He pressed his hand to the mirror behind him. It rippled again. "Come on," he said. "Let go. Just disappear. Let me keep it. You've seen how well I'm doing." The house began to shake. The walls cracked. Paint peeled in fast forward. I felt something rise in my chest. Something old. Something angry. "No," I said. His eyes narrowed. "You can't stop this," he hissed. "You opened the door. You invited me. Then I'll slam it shut." I grabbed the nearest object, a lamp, and hurled it at the mirror. It shattered, glass spraying like ice shards. He screamed, not in pain, but in fury. The air turned acidic. The house began to collapse in on itself. The hallway behind me shrank, twisting, closing. He lunged. We collided. I wasn't ready for how strong he was. He moved like liquid shadow, sliding from one place to another. Each punch I landed felt like it struck air. But when he hit me, it hurt, like I was being peeled apart. "You can't fight what you created," he roared. But I did. I grabbed a jagged piece of mirror from the floor. He saw it, paused, smiled again. "Go ahead," he whispered. "Destroy yourself." I stabbed it into his chest. He gasped, then looked down at the glass, only to see that it reflected me. The real me, not broken, not twisted. "Oh, no," he muttered. "You're not supposed to." I drove the mirror deeper. The house screamed with him, and he dissolved into smoke, into whispers, into nothing. When I woke up, I was lying outside the house. The sun was rising. Birds chirped softly. The door behind me was gone. Not broken, not burned. Gone. Just a blank wall of old brick, as if it had never been there. I checked my phone. No missed calls. No messages. Just a single video in my gallery. I tapped play. It was a recording of me, sitting in the car, back at the bridge, staring into the mirror, and whispering, "If you see this, it means I made it back. It means he's gone. But if I ever stop hearing the knock, start to forget, remind me who I really am." I sold the mirror, burned the clothes, moved across the country, started over. Most nights I sleep peacefully, dreamlessly, but not always, because sometimes, at exactly 2:13 a.m., I hear it again. Knock, knock, Knock. And I wait, not because I'm afraid, but because I need to remember what I lost, what I became, and what I almost let win. Because the truth is, even now, he's still out there, waiting for me to forget, to slip, to invite him back in. But I won't. Not again. Not ever.